Have you ever met someone who was absolutely brilliant? They knew the answer. They had years of experience. They had the education. They had the credentials. Yet somehow, nobody asked for their opinion. Nobody followed their leadership. Nobody remembered what they said. Now here's the surprising part. They weren't ignored because they lacked knowledge. They were ignored because they lacked clarity. You can be the smartest person in the room and still be the last person people choose to follow. Think about that. Leadership isn't awarded to the person who knows the most. Leadership is given to the person who communicates the clearest. Today, I'm going to show you why some incredibly gifted leaders stay invisible, while others with less experience become trusted voices people gladly follow. And before we're finished, I'll give you a simple framework you can begin using today that will immediately increase your influence. Welcome to The Leader's Voice. I'm John Torres, where leaders learn to communicate with clarity, confidence, and authority. One of the greatest myths in leadership is this: if I become good enough, people will naturally recognize it. That's simply not true. I've spent decades preaching, leading churches, speaking internationally, coaching leaders, serving as a hospice chaplain, and helping people communicate under pressure. Over the years, I've discovered something that changed the way I teach leadership. Knowledge creates competence. Communication creates influence. Those are not the same thing. I've watched gifted pastors lose their congregation because they couldn't communicate vision. I've watched business owners with incredible ideas lose clients because they've complicated everything. I've watched coaches with life-changing wisdom struggle to attract students because people couldn't understand the transformation being offered. Meanwhile, someone with half the experience, half the education, and half the knowledge built a following simply because they communicated clearly. That's not unfair. That's leadership. Because people don't buy information. They buy understanding. Here's point number one. Expertise doesn't create influence. Here's a mistake many leaders make. They assume people admire complexity. They don't. People admire clarity. Imagine going to a doctor. Doctor number one spends 20 minutes explaining complicated medical terminology. Doctor number two says, here's what's happening. Here's why it matters. Here's what we're going to do. Who do you trust? Exactly. Not because the second doctor knows more, because the second doctor communicates better. Leadership works the same way. People are not asking, how much do you know? They're asking, can you help me understand? When your communication becomes difficult, your influence becomes limited. Your audience shouldn't have to work to understand you. Your responsibility as a leader is to remove confusion, because confused people rarely move. Clear people do. If this message is helping you already, I've created a free resource, the Clear and Confident Communicator Blueprint. Inside, you'll discover practical communication principles you can apply immediately in meetings, coaching, business, and everyday conversations. Download it using the link below. And if you're serious about becoming the leader people naturally follow, stay with me, because what comes next may completely change how you communicate. Number two, the cost of complexity. Complexity has a price. It costs attention. It costs trust. It costs action. Think about the last meeting you attended. Someone spoke for 15 minutes. At the end, nobody knew what to do. Sound familiar? That's not communication. That's information overload. Here's something I tell leaders all the time. If people can't repeat it, they won't remember it. If they don't remember it, they won't act on it. The greatest communicators throughout history understood something powerful. Simple isn't shallow. Simple is memorable. Jesus often taught profound truths using stories about seeds, sheep, fishing, farmers. Simple pictures, simple language, eternal impact. The goal isn't sounding intelligent. The goal is making truth unforgettable. If your audience leaves saying, That made a sense. You've succeeded. Here's number 3, why people trust simplicity. Trust grows when people feel confident they understood you. Now, when they're not impressed by your vocabulary, clarity creates confidence. Confusion creates hesitation. People naturally move toward leaders who reduce uncertainty because clarity produces security. Here's something I've learned. People remember how you made them feel. Did you leave them confused or confident? Overwhelmed or encouraged? Lost or clear? Your leadership isn't measured by how much you say. It's measured by how much people understand. The best communicators remove fog. They create direction. Direction builds confidence. Confidence builds trust. Trust creates influence. That's leadership. If you're finding value in these lessons, subscribe to The Leader's Voice. Every week I share practical communication strategies that help pastors, coaches, entrepreneurs, business owners, and leaders communicate with greater clarity and authority. If you're ready to become impossible to ignore, you're in the right place. Here's teaching point number 4, 3 habits of memorable leaders. Now let's become practical. Here are 3 habits that make leaders memorable. Habit number 1, they think before they speak. Instead of talking while thinking, they think. They speak. That one habit eliminates unnecessary words. Habit number 2, they simplify before they explain. Don't start with details. Start with the big idea. Once people understand the destination, they're willing to hear the journey. Habit number 3, they connect before they convince. Facts inform, connection transforms. People don't simply remember information, they remember people who understood them. That's why empathy is one of leadership's greatest communication tools. When people know you understand them, they're ready to hear you. Here's today's signature framework. I call it the influence triangle. Every influential leader develops 3 areas: knowledge, keep learning, grow continually, become excellent. Knowledge matters, but knowledge alone isn't enough. Clarity. Can you explain complicated ideas simply? Can a 12-year-old understand your message? Can someone repeat your main point? If not, simplify. Connection. Do people feel seen, heard, valued? Because leadership begins with relationships, not presentations. When these 3 work together, knowledge, clarity, connection, influence becomes almost inevitable. Miss one, and your leadership weakens. Master all 3, and people naturally begin following your voice. If you're ready to accelerate your communication and leadership, I'd love to help you personally. Below this video, you'll find a link to schedule a complimentary leadership communication strategy call. We'll identify what's limiting your influence, clarify your message, and build a practical plan to help you communicate with greater confidence and authority. I'd be honored to help you take the next step. Let me leave you with this. Being brilliant, it's not enough. Being experienced, it's not enough. Being educated, it's not enough. The leaders who change organizations, churches, businesses, families, and communities are the leaders who make complicated things understandable. Don't aim to impress people. Aim to serve them with clarity. Because when people clearly understand your message, they confidently follow your leadership. And remember, people don't follow the most knowledgeable leader. They follow the clearest leader. Thank you for spending these few minutes with me. I'm John Torres. This is The Leader's Voice, where leaders learn to communicate with clarity, lead with confidence, and influence with authority. God bless you, and I'll see you in episode 2.